SQL, then we'll start with your PLSQL. Okay, so and then we'll start with a little bit of Unix and then go with Informatica, Power Center. So to start with this, basically we are going to talk about last concept is about the data dictionaries. So what do you mean by data dictionary, and what are all the metadata tables that you have, or what are the system tables that you have in Oracle database? So basically we are going to talk about the different types of data dictionary views that are present in the database. So basically your data dictionary views are prefixed with user underscore and all underscore, and the next one is your DBA underscore. These are all the three different types of data dictionary views that you have in the database. So basically what is your data dictionary view, or what is a system table, is that whenever you're performing some operation, let's say for creation of table or a creation of views, creation of different types of objects, or all those things are stored in the some metadata tables that are called as a data dictionary tables. So every information that you, or every action that you perform on the database is captured in metadata tables. So when you create a table, it is being captured. When you create a view, it is being captured. When you create a sequence, it is being captured. Everything will be captured. So let's say if you want to know what are the list of data dictionary views that are present in my database, I can easily query saying that select star from dictionary. So when you say that select star from dictionary, so it's basically gives you the different table names. So all these tables are nothing but your system tables, which will store the information about all those. So you'll have different types of data dictionary tables. Let's say if I want to know all the tables which are actually starting with user percentage, let's say I want to know all the tables which are starting with user. So these are all the different data dictionary views which are starting with user. So what is the difference if a data dictionary view starts with the user underscore, or what is the difference if a data dictionary view starts with the all underscore and the DBA underscore? So you'll have all of them present in your data dictionary, so which is there here. So if you look at it, you have all these information which is present in this. Okay, so let's take a look at this user underscore data dictionary views. So basically what happens in case of user underscore views is that whenever you query user underscore data dictionary views, it will show you all the objects. It will show you all the objects which are owned by that user. All the objects which are owned in the sense that guy, I mean that schema has created, which are owned by that user, which it is there. So all underscore is basically it will show all the objects, which the user has access to, see all the tables. So when you say that DBA underscore, it will show all the objects, within the database, within database, which it is there, then you have it. So basically what happens with the user underscore, what is difference between the user underscore and all underscore? It says that anyway. So now you got the idea like what is a database and what is a schema, right? So if you remember yesterday what we have discussed, we discussed about the different what is a database and what is the different schemas that you have present. Let's say I have an ORCL database. Under an ORCL database, I have the different schemas which are present. Let's say I have a HR schema and I have a SCOT schema. So this is your SCOT schema, and let's say this is your something called as your SQL1 schema. So if the SQL1 user has created a student table and has given a privilege to the HR user to access it, basically they've given a privilege to access. And if you say the employees is present in this, let's say the locations, and then you have the departments and all those which are present in this. So let's say if you say that what are the objects which are owned by HR user, then we say that employees, locations and the departments. Since the student table is owned by the SQL1 user and this user has actually given access to HR user. So when you say what are the tables which are accessible to the HR user, then we'll include student also. That is a difference. So when you say user underscore, that will give you the objects which are owned by that HR user only. So when I say user underscore tables or user underscore anything, it will give you which are created by HR user. When you say all underscore tables, it will give you all the tables which can be accessed by the HR user. It might not be, it may be the case that that user may not have created that object and that is owned by the different other user. So that is a difference between the user underscore and the all underscore, this one. Let's take a look at the different other things here. Let's say if you want to know basically I want to know the list of tables present in this SQL1 schema. So I have actually logged in as a SQL1 user. If you take a look at it, so when you go to properties, so I have logged in as SQL1 user and I want to know all the tables which are present in SQL1 user. So then you can write it as user underscore tables. So try to execute this. So this will give you the list of tables present in this. There are total 44 tables which are present in the this schema, user underscore tables. Similarly, if you want to know list of views that are created by that user, so you can query it saying that select star from user underscore views. So this will give you the list of data dictionary views which are present. So these are all the views which is present. If you look at the text column, this text column is basically tells you what is the query which is used to create the view. And if you go on here, it will also tell you whether it is a read-only view or it's a updatable view, and all those things also will be shown here in this. So next thing is about the, let's say if you want to know the list of sequences which are present, so you can always query this, select star from, let's say, user underscore sequences. So it will give you the list of sequences which are present, list of sequences which are present in this schema. So when you try to execute, so this will give, these are all the schemas and what is the minimum value, maximum, every information will be stored. Let's say if you want to query all the objects present in this SQL1 schema, I can use user underscore objects. User underscore objects will give you the list of information about all your objects. It will give you the list of tables, list of views, list of indexes, list of triggers, packages, everything will be returned. So if you want to know indexes, what are the indexes that are present in this schema, then you can use the statement as user underscore indexes which is present in this. So try to query this and see the information here. So this is more on the user indexes, what it is present, the different indexes which are present. So when you say user underscore tables, it is giving you the 44 rows which are written. That means there are total 44 tables which are created in this. Let's say if I query saying that select star from all underscore tables, it will also give me the list of tables which this SQL1 has access to. So if you see, it is giving you some objects from sys user and similarly from the other users as well. So all these objects I can access. So that is all these objects I can access from the other schemas along with the So if you also see, you'll also find, see, from this issue schema, database 1 as well as a database 4, all these things, npm and different other schemas also, I can access the data from it. So that is difference between the all tables and the user underscore tables. So when you say DBA underscore tables, so to query this system table, you should have a DBA privilege to do that. So I'm not sure whether we have a DBA privilege for this. So let me just try to execute. So it will give me yes, we do have a DBA privilege. So when you try to count the number of tables which are present in this, so try to query. So this will give you total 1560, which means there are total 1560 tables which are present in the total database. And if you want to know the total number of objects present in your database, so you can also write a query saying that select count of star from DBA underscore objects. So when you try to query, this will give you the total number of objects. So there are, so when you say objects, which includes your tables, which includes your views, which includes your sequences, indexes, everything includingly, it will give you the total number of objects which are present in this is 14,200. So likewise, these are all the different data dictionary tables or a system tables which you need to know. So in order to understand where the index information is stored, in order to understand where the table information is stored, suppose, let's say, if I want to know the list of constraints that are available in my schema, I mean list of constraints on the different tables that are available, or let's say list of constraints that are created on the employee table. So how do you do that? So select star from user underscore constraints, so where, let's say, the table underscore name is equal to, let's say I want to know about the employees table, so which you use it as a employees. So just try to execute. So this will give you the list of constraints that are existing on the employees table. So this many users and the owner is SQL1. So similarly, if you want to know the list of, let's say, constraint columns which are used to create a constraints, so you can also know there is a something called as a user cons columns, so where table name is equal to employees. So when you do this, okay, so when you say that select star from user underscore table, how do we know which user is these tables belongs to? That is what I have told you here. When you always query, it will show you the objects owned by that user, means whichever the user that you logged in to the database and executing that query, it will show you for that user only. So when you go here, let's say I have actually logged in as an SQL1 user, it will show me for a SQL1 user. That is what we understand when you say that user underscore views, right? So it will show me only the which are owned by SQL1 user. Let's say if you want to know the list of columns that are used for creating a constraints, so that also you can use it. So this is more about the data dictionaries. So you can still explore more things on the data dictionaries. So basically at this point of time I'm stopping. What do you mean by the what are all the other different things? So let's also understand about some analytical functions. I think we didn't talk about the analytical functions. See, whenever you have a doubt about which data dictionary view stores this information, then you can always query this table. So if you query this data dictionary table, select star from dictionary, it will give you the list of things. So if you just scroll down, you can easily understand which system table stores what information. If you want to know about the synonyms, you can use user underscore synonyms. If you want to know about the table level columns, you can always do that. So likewise, you can always query this and then understand. If you want to know about the PLSQL procedures, there is something called as a user underscore procedures. Likewise, you can always refer this data dictionary views and then do it. Alright, so that's pretty much on the data dictionary views or the system tables. So the next one is about the analytical functions. So basically these analytical functions are much useful for you when you go to the interviews to answer the questions. So whenever you want to answer the questions like top 3 salaries, bottom 3 salaries and all those things, then analytical functions will come into picture. So let's say, what are the different analytical functions that you need to know? There are a lot of things. You don't need to go for most of them. We'll talk about the rank, dense rank. So what is a rank function, how the rank function works, and how the dense rank works. We have a lead, lag, first value, last value. There are so many things. First, last. There are so many things. We'll talk about only the rank and dense rank function, and remaining all the other things you can slowly explore. Basically it works in the same way. Now let's say you got a question to understand, I want to find out the top 3 salaried employees in total organization. So how would I do that? Let's say you know the employee table structure. Let's say select last name, comma salary, last name, comma salary, and you have, let's say even you have a job ID. So what is the column which we are using to rank the employees? That is a salary column. You're basically using a salary column and then identifying the total. So how to use the syntax? So you need to use a rank of this, let's say, and over, and you need to use partition by. Let's say I just want to find out the top 3 salaried employees in total organization. So you don't need to group the data. All I need to do is, out of all the salaries, what are the top 3 salaries present in my top 3 salaries which are present here, that I need to determine. So partition by, let's say you have something called as a, sorry, I don't want to partition it. Let's say I want to identify the top 3 salaries. So I'll use a condition as order by salary descending. So whenever you need a top salaries, you need to order the data on a rank column in the descending order. If you need bottom 3, then in the ascending order. So from, let's say, employees. So this is a table that we have. So when you try to execute, so this will give you the query. So see here, for a king, this is the highest salary. So it has given a rank as a 1. And you have to closely observe the next record here. So if you look at these 2 records, both the employees are receiving the same salary. So it has given 2 and 2. What happened to the next rank? So if you look at it, 3rd rank has been skipped. So this way, your rank value is 4 here. So what do you mean by that? Let's say 1, 2 to 4. See, rank function works in such a way, if the 2 employees are receiving the same salary, then it will award the same rank to the employees. If and it will skip the next rank. So that's how the rank function works. Suppose if you say that there are 3 employees who are earning the salary, same salary, 3 employees, so it will give the ranks as 1, 2, 2 and then 5. So that's how it works. It skips the next rank when you use it. That is the rank function. So I think I haven't used that here. It is displaying here now. You can check. So when you go for it, let's say this is the rank and I want only the top 3 salaried employees in my organization. So basically if I do that, using a rank function, it gives me only these 3 records, but it is not the top 3 salaries. I have even one more salary. So how can we avoid the skipping of the ranks using the rank function? So let's say I'm going with a dense rank. Just observe the difference in the data. So how the data is being retrieved here. So when you try and query this, so this will give you, when you try and query, this will basically give you the 1, 2, 2 and then 3. So what is happening here? It is basically, it is not skipping the ranks between the 1, 2, 2 and then 3. It is not basically skipping it. So if I want to find out the top 3 salaried employees, so here I have to use an inline view because I cannot use this thing in the where clause of the query, and I can also not use the alias here. So that's why I'm using this condition here. So when you want only the top 3 salaried employees, let's say what and all are the details that you want. I need all these details: last name, job ID and the salary. And let's say where rank is less than or equal to 3. Let's say I want to find out the top 3 salaried employees. So when you try to execute, one second. Okay, from is missing. So when you try to see this, it gives you the top 3 salaried employees in this. So these are all the top 3 salaried employees. So one is receiving the 24,000 and 17,000 and then this. So this is about the finding out the top 3 salaried employees. Let's say if I want to find out the top 3 salaried employees according to the each job, top 3 salaried employees according to the each job means I want to find out the top 3 salaried employees in AD_VP, and I want to identify the top 3 salaried employees in the sales representative, let's say the top 3 salaried employees in the sales manager, and all those things. So how would I do that? It's a very simple, same process, same query. All you need to do is, if you want to identify this one, just use the partition by clause, PARTITION, partition by, see, when you want to find out the top 3 salaried employees for each job ID, then you need to partition the data based on the job ID. So just use it and try to execute now. This will give you the top 3 salaried employees according to the each job ID. So let's say if the salary is null, yes, still it will display that value even though the salary value is null. Basically this rank and the dense rank function, it does not ignore the null values. So if you want to avoid the null values, so basically you can use the condition here where salary is not null. So you want to rank only for the employees whose salary is not null. So when you try to write it this way, it will give you the condition. So when you try to use it, it basically gives you the top 3 salaried employees for each department, each job ID. So when you see the financial accounting, let's say we have 3 employees. One is having a 9,000 salary, another is having 8,200, next one is having a 7,800, like this. And when you go to the IT programmer, it will also give you the same thing, 9,000, 6,000 and the 4,800, which it is there. So this is the more on the, so suppose let's say I want to identify the top 3 salaried employees according to the department. So what do? So it's a simple thing. All you need to do is just partition the data based on the department ID. So when you write it, let's say the department ID comma salary, partition by department ID in using this, and try to execute this. Let's say I need even this column here, department ID column, and I want to identify the top 3 salaried employees. So now it will use it. So it's basically, it will identify the values in using it. So now this is your IT programmer as well as financial accountants, and then this. Let's say if I want to identify the bottom three salaries, so how would you do that? Let's say the bottom, then it's only the difference is that you need to change this order by clause and then do that. So when you try to use that, let's say if I have to find out the bottom three salaries according to the each department, just take out this. Top means you have to sort the data in the descending order. Bottom means it's just the ascending order. So now let's try to determine this. So for a 10 department, so see here, this is how it appears. Let's say for a 30 department, see 2500, 2600 and the 2800. So this is a rank. I think I'm not displaying the rank here. That is why there might be little confusion. So let me just display the rank also. When you try to execute, so this will give you the rank, how it works. 2500, 600 and 800, and these are all the another set of functions. So when you look at the IT programmer, you have 1, 2, 2 and then 3. So likewise, you basically use the analytical functions, different analytical functions to find out the top ranking, bottom ranking and all. Similarly, you can also generate the row number. Row number is also another function, just like a rank. It will also use, I think it's a row num only, yeah, row underscore num. That is also another one which is called as which is another analytical function which we use. So whenever somebody asks you in the interviews about how the so basically how the ranking is done, or how the top three salaries or the bottom three salaries have been identified, then you can use it. So this completes our syllabus on the SQL front. Like we have done with whatever is required for an SQL in terms of interviews and everything. And as discussed yesterday, you also need to explore more on the partitioning of the data. And that's how this works. All right. And any questions so far with the SQL things? If you have, you can go ahead now. We'll start with the PLSQL. If you do not have any questions here. All right then. So let me save this basically to send you, and SQL final .sql. So that we are done with it. So let me just employee and a Jan aggregator as this inner join. So what is the question here? Yes. Yes. What is the question that you have here? You don't have a comma here. Where is a comma? You don't require that. So this is error. Average of E dot salary group by department name. Yeah, this is a one. Minimum underscore salary D dot department name. Okay, let me just, yeah, that was error. So you need to correct that. So there was no comma, and that's the issue. Okay, all right then. So let's go with the PLSQL thing, and let me just copy the presentation here. 1 second. Okay, let me paste this into this itself. So okay, and now let's talk about, so far what we have discussed is about the SQL things, and what do you mean by PLSQL? So how do you handle the PLSQL? See, there are few things that which you cannot actually achieve by using the SQL. Okay, so all those things can be achieved by using your PLSQL, and basically the things which cannot be achieved is like you cannot read the data from your flat file, or let's say if you want to write the data into a flat file, which cannot be achieved using SQL. Let's say if I have to send an email to the business user about the data and everything, that cannot be achieved. Or if you have to do any kind of a programming, that cannot be achieved by using a SQL. So that is the reason we are actually going for a PLSQL, which is nothing but a procedural logic structured query language. PL stands for a procedural logic. So is PLSQL works with all your databases? Let's say SQL is something that which is like a universal language which works with your Oracle database, and which also works with your Teradata, which works with SQL Server, and all the other databases which it works. Let's say when you talk about a PLSQL, is this works with other databases? No, absolutely not. When you say that PLSQL is an Oracle proprietary language. So Oracle database proprietary language. It works only with Oracle database. It does not work with any other databases. It works only with Oracle database. So this way the PLSQL stands different. So similarly, the way how Oracle has its own language for its database PLSQL, even for other databases like SQL Server and all, for SQL Server there is another language which that is called as a TSQL. See, in the job interviews and all, when you start applying, the people will ask you, like, let's say, do you have experience in the TSQL? So that is called as a transaction SQL. When you say that TSQL is nothing but a SQL Server language, or in the DB2 also I think it is referred as the same name, TSQL. So TSQL is nothing but a more or less a similar kind of a programming language that works with a SQL Server database and all. So since the PLSQL works only with Oracle database, so we are going to learn all of them in the Oracle database itself. So let me just show you the introduction, like what is a PLSQL is all about. Anyway, I'll share this PPTs with you. So basically the PLSQL term stands like whenever you're writing a program in a PLSQL, you're going to make use of the control structures. Let's say if you have a C programming language, C language idea, like control structure means it's like you'll use a if-else statement, or if you'll use a for loop statement, or you'll use a while loop, do while and all. These are all called as a control structures. So it's basically you're going to use all the control structures plus SQL. This here, the SQL is nothing but your DML statements, DDL statements, all those things. So the combination of your control structures or the procedurals plus SQL is nothing but your PLSQL. So you're going to use again a SQL in the PLSQL procedures and programs and identify all these. So basically in the PLSQL, how it works, in the you don't need to actually worry much about the architecture, how it works. It basically, there is just like your SQL engine, you have something called as a PLSQL engine. So what it does is whenever you write a PLSQL program and execute that program in the Oracle database, it will be given to the PLSQL engine. That PLSQL engine is basically separates, there will be which separates the SQL separately and then the PLSQL procedural statement separately. That procedural statements will be executed by the PLSQL engine and all the SQLs will be executed by the SQL engine. There are two engines will be there in the database. One is called as a PLSQL engine, another is called as a SQL engine. So since your PLSQL block or a program is the combination of two things like PLSQL statements as well as SQL statements. So your PLSQL statements will get executed by the PLSQL engine and your SQL statements will get executed by the SQL engine. That's it. You just remember this, that is enough. You don't need to go in detail about it. So that's benefits of the PLSQL is that it can be invoked from any kind of application. Like you can invoke the PLSQL from your Informatica Power Center in case of ETL projects. You can invoke the PLSQL from any .NET program. You can invoke the PLSQL from your Java program, or you can invoke your PLSQL from C program. So it can be integrated with any type of database. I mean, it can be integrated with any type of a program. Basically, it will improve the performance and it gives you the much better performance when you do the PLSQL thing. Like let's say now one thing that you have to understand in the PLSQL, we basically create the three types of programs. So one is called as an anonymous block. One is called as anonymous block. Anonymous means which does not have any name. If you are creating a program, this program doesn't have any name. If this program doesn't have any name, then that is called as an anonymous block. So another type of a program which you create is a procedure, and the third one which you create is a function that you create. So these are the three PLSQL program blocks, or you can call it as a PLSQL programs types. PLSQL program types, or you can even call this as a PLSQL methods also. You can also define this as a PLSQL methods. So any program that you create, it follows certain structure. Basically the program will consist of different blocks in it. So even the PLSQL block will contain the different things. So PLSQL block structure will be, when I say block structure, that is nothing but how do you write a program. So when you say, if you see the C language, first you declare it, then you keep the body of the program, then you keep the exceptions. Likewise, even your PLSQL also comes up with a different PLSQL program sections. So first one is called as a declare. So what do you mean by the declaration section? In the declaration section, you will define all the variables, which are required for your program, and cursors. We'll understand what do you mean by cursor. Okay. So cursor is nothing but a select statement to process the data. So all these things you'll define it here. And begin and end. So this is called as your execution block. So whatever the statements that you have, you'll always keep them in the execution block. So this is called as an execution block. When you say execution block, it is nothing but all the program related constructs that you're going to keep it in the execution block, that you're going to keep it. And this is which you have all your SQL statements. You'll include all your SQL statements, and if required some PLSQL statements that are nothing but your if statement, and then all those. So whenever you're processing the data, it is nothing but you have to handle an exception. What do you mean by exception? Exception is nothing but a runtime error. So which is not a predefined error. It can be a predefined error, or it can be a user defined error, or it can be a runtime error. Error which is nothing but an exception. So you're going to have the exception block. Within the execution itself, you'll have the exception. So here you'll handle all the exceptions related to this. This is the program which it is there. All the exceptions you handle it here. So basically it will consist of 4 blocks. One is a declaration section, and another is a execution section, and another is a exception section. So within the begin and end, you'll close it. So which is optional and which is mandatory? You can create a program without the declaration section. So this is your optional part. And you can still create a program without a exception block also. But mandatory is that the execution block is mandatory for every program that you define. So this, when you say that begin, this is a mandatory block. What do you mean by mandatory? It's like without that block you cannot write a program. So I can still write a program without the declaration and without the exception handling in my PLSQL block or a PLSQL block structure, which it is there. So it's basically the mandatory part is the execution block, not the the execution of this. So this is how we use PLSQL block structure. So these are all the different types of blocks we have. One is anonymous block, and another is a function, and the next one is a procedure. We'll understand the difference between the procedural method and the function method when we go further on that. So let's not, okay. So let's write a simple program about the anonymous block. Let's say we'll try to print the name of an employee 100, name of an employee 100, and try to see how can we print that value. Or let's try to write a simple program and then see that. And before stepping into that, we need to understand something called as a DBMS output. See, in your C language and the Java language and all, you might have understand about the printf statement and all these. What do you mean by printf is that it will actually print the message to the console, output message to the console. Even in PLSQL, whenever you want to display some data in the console, Oracle provides you an API. Whenever I say API, API is nothing but an application interface or a package. It provides a package. Using that package, you can actually print the message on the console. What is that package which helps you to print the message? That is nothing but your DBMS output. DBMS output is a package which it is there. So whenever you want to print a line, there is a method which is associated with it that is called as a put line. So DBMS underscore put underscore line. So here, whenever you want to print something, you can always print it. Let's say if I want to print this hello world now, let's try to see that. My first program is going to be printing of the hello world message on my PLSQL. So I'm using a begin and I'm using an end. I'm using a begin and end. So you know that you don't need a declaration section and you don't need a exception section to start with a program. This is my first program that I'm going to execute. Okay. So let me just try and do that. I don't have a declaration section and everything. So all I need to do is I just want to print the message. So you need to follow certain indentation, okay, program structure. Okay, let's DBMS output dot put underscore line. Let's say I want to print a message. Okay, this is my first program. This is my first PLSQL program which I want to print. PLSQL program. And one very important thing that you have to remember is that every statement in the PLSQL should be enclosed with a semicolon. If you are defining a variable or if you are writing a statement, how does a compiler understands that, okay, this statement is ending here? That can be determined by using your semicolon. So if there is no semicolon at the end of the statement, that means it will still treat that as a continuation of that statement. So always, very important statement that you have to note is every line in a PLSQL, every line in PLSQL program should be terminated should be terminated by semicolon. Terminated or terminated by semicolon. Let's say I want to print even more. So let's say this is your first PLSQL program, and after this I just want to print, let's say, hello world. That is my program which I want to print. So how do I execute this? This is execution is pretty simple. Okay, so whenever you want to print a message to the console, you need to use a statement called as a set server output on, which means it will actually turn on your console output. So you need to use the statement set server output on, which it is there. So you're going to use this option to turn on your console output. If you don't use this, it basically cannot print this message. It is printing it, but you cannot see that message. Basically, that's how it works. So you need to use set server output on option, and you need to execute. So let me turn on the server output in this. So this task is completed. Basically, to view the DBMS output, you need to go to this and then see the DBMS output. Basically, what happens with this is, wait. How can I actually minimize this? I want to keep it here. Okay, no. Okay, so this is a little better, and I want to keep this here basically. Okay, let's keep it like this. I think it looks a little better than this. Okay, so now I just want to print it. Whenever you are actually running a program, that output will be printed here. That is a DBMS output. So to get that window, you need to go to view and then click on DBMS output. So when you click on this DBMS output, then only you can see that. Let's say you want to run this. When you run this, it has to print that message. So basically it is printing here itself. That's fine. You don't need to go. And if you want to see the turn on this DBMS output, you can just click on this. Basically now, from now onwards, it will also print here. Either you can see that program here, or you can actually use it here. So it says that anonymous block is completed. What do you mean by anonymous block? Do you have any name that is given to this program? No. It is just a nameless program. That's why it is called as an anonymous block. Whichever the statement that you write in the begin and end and then execute it, that's called as your anonymous block, and then do it. So how did I execute this program? So basically you go here, select complete program what you want to execute, and hit F9 to execute the program. So it says that anonymous block is completed. But if you see the program here, this is my first PLSQL program and hello world. That is what the message which I'm printing, and this is a simple anonymous block which does not have any declaration section, or which does not have any exception section that we have it here, right? So this is your first program that you see that. And what is an output? Script output. I think we have seen this. What do you mean by the script output? And that is a first simple introduction about your PLSQL. So any confusion or any question so far on this, please? All right. Okay. So, okay. Can we print PDF output? You want to print the message to the PDF? No. That has to be done through the program. This is just a program that you're actually verifying in this. You cannot actually write it into the PDF, but you can write it into the, you have to write a separate program. There is something called as a util file, and using that file API, you actually print the message to the file. I'm not sure. I don't think we can write the data into a PDF using PLSQL, but maybe other type of your CSV XLS, let's say the TXT and all those things, which you can write it. Okay, so is PLSQL is an important in Informatica part? It's a good question. Okay, see why we are actually discussing about the PLSQL is that you need to know a little bit of PLSQL when you are working with the Informatica projects which are using the Oracle as a data warehouse. So when Oracle is being used as a data warehouse, so PLSQL language, in some cases it is being used. I don't say that a PLSQL is predominantly used in all the things. Wherever you're using an Oracle database as a data warehouse, nonetheless, you should know what the PLSQL is. So it depends from a scenario to scenario. Like you don't need a heavy bit of a programming in the PLSQL. It is that you need to know the very basic level of things, how to write a procedure and all. Then you can explore. See, the PLSQL is not a very big subject at all, because all you're going to do in that PLSQL is just again SQL concepts. So you don't need to worry much. So whatever the things that you're learning in this class, it's enough for you to survive as an Informatica developer with the PLSQL skills. So definitely when you start applying for a jobs, people will ask you, do you have a PLSQL knowledge? Yes, definitely you can say that after this training, yes, I do have a PLSQL knowledge. So whatever is required for an Informatica developer, we are going to learn. I'm not going to teach you a complete things how you're going to work as a PLSQL developer. So whatever is required, that only we are going to discuss. All right. So the next thing that to understand is about the defining a variables. See, you know already what are all the data types that the Oracle has, right? So if you want to define a variable, so definitely this is a process that we follow. So first we define a variable name and then the data type which it belongs to. And suppose if you want to define a variable as a not null, means if you are defining a variable as a not null, that means you cannot assign a null value to it. It's like a constraint. And if you have to allocate some value to it, so this is called as an assignment operator in the PLSQL. So whenever you want to assign a value, colon equal to is the operator that you have to use. So that is an assignment operator which you have. So variable value, whenever you are defining, see, just like your C language, you cannot define 3 variables at a time. In the PLSQL, you have to define one by one variable. If I have to define 3 number variables, A number, B number, C number, I have to do that. I cannot do it like A comma B comma C number. That cannot be done in a PLSQL. So you have to do by one. So that is the reason you have to do it. Let's say, let's try to print scope resolution. No, it is not actually called as a scope resolution. Scope is nothing but it's actually, scope is a term that we use for a program scope or a variable scope that we use. It is not a scope resolution operator. It is in fact is an assignment operator in the PLSQL. So you don't need to much worry at this point of time whether you have array or data structure or something. So eventually you'll understand that. We are still in the first class of the PLSQL, so you'll understand it. Okay, so when you say that, let's say if I want to print the message saying that I want to print my name, so what happens when you run this program? Let's try to write another program. So declare, so I'm defining a variable as v underscore my name. So always the variable name starts with a v underscore. Let's say you have something called as a varchar2 of 1000. So varchar2 of 1000 means it can handle 1000 characters. So I'm not defining any value here. Concentrate. Okay. So I'm not initializing any value. Basically, if you see here, I'm not initializing any value. Begin, end. So when you use it, let's say in this, if I want to print my name, so what is the function that we use? DBMS output, dot put underscore line, DBMS. So let's say this is my name. my name is, or you can write it as my name is and concatenate with this. So v underscore my name, let's say this is the one which we have. So what happens if you print this? Let's try to execute this. So when I execute this, basically I need to know what it is printing. It is not printing anything because you have not initialized any value to that, right? So this is a concatenation operator. When you say v underscore my name, you never initialized it. That's why it is just displaying the null value. So suppose if I want to assign any value to this, I can assign it here. Let's say my name is, let's say Karthik is this. So when you try and execute this one, now what will it print? It will print it saying that my name is Karthik. So let's try to see whether it will print is it this one or not, right? So this is called as an initialization of operator. So whenever you print it, that will be this one. Let's say if I want to overwrite this value. So let's say if you want to overwrite, I have something called as, this is the option that you have, v underscore my name is equal to this. Let's say if I print it here, what is the value that it will print? So if I print it here, what is the value that will be print by this and what is the value that will print by this? So when you try to execute, this will override the value of that. Basically whatever the value that it is holding Karthik will be replaced by this value. So when you try and execute this one, oops, very big error. Let's see. What is the error? Can somebody tell me what is the error this program is returning? What is the error that I am actually getting here? What is the issue with it? Yes, very good. So we have to enclose that with a semicolon. So every statement in the PLSQL should be enclosed with a semicolon. So this is what it is throwing the error. It is not able to recognize at the line 6. So when you try to execute this time now, it should work fine. Let's see that. Yes, this is how it works. Anonymous block is completed and your name is printed here, Karthik, as well as followed by that name. So this is how you can define a variable. So you can also define the other type of variables like a date variable as well as the number variable, all those things you can do that using this. So this is called as an initialization of a variable. This is called as an initialization of a variable. So in PLSQL, basically the variables are divided into different types. You have a scalar variables, you have a reference variables, large objects, and then the composite data type. See, we basically most of the time in the data warehouse, you deal with a scalar. How you can override of a variable? I don't know. I didn't understand your question basically, how we can override of your variable in the sense. How can we avoid override of a variable? Okay.
I mean, how have you? Oh, yeah.
If you want to,
in the second declaration you mentioned like, yeah. I mean, the same thing you mentioned is ready, right? Okay. Even if you mention that one, I want the second line output as Karthik. How I can do that?
Don't do that.
Any special declaration?
Just you have to. Don't do that. Just do not override it. That is what it gives you the same value. How can you avoid? You don't have to override the value. Wherever you want to use, you want to throughout your program, you want to print only v underscore my name, you just use it. Everywhere if you try to. So this is for commenting. Okay. Hyphen is used for a single line comment. How the multi-line comment works? So multi-line comments works in this way. So in the PLSQL, if you want to comment multi-lines, you'll use /**/. So this way it will be used. Let's say if I want to comment entire thing, so I can write something like this, ///. So this is your multi-line comment. So single line comment is the hyphen. So if you don't want to override the variable, don't initialize it. That's as good as that. So when you try to execute.
No, question is, actually my question is something different. Consider I have a variable with a number like 10,000 or something. Okay. Even if there are many manipulations of that variable, I want that particular variable should be 10,000.
then you need to define that as a constant. So let's say if that variable should not be modified, anything that you do, then you should basically define that as a constant. If you define, let's say, there is an option which you have to use as a constant. When you say if you define it as a constant, it never changes. Throughout your program, it's the same. That's like a global constant. So when you go here in the variable definition itself, I think we have seen that. Okay, maybe I didn't explain much about it. So when you say that commission, you want to define it as a constant, it doesn't changes, then go for it and define it as a 1400.
Okay. Got it. That's what I know. Thank you.
So let's talk about what are the different types of scalar variables and what are the types of different composite and the large objects. See, basically when you talk about the data types in Oracle are divided into different types. So you can call it as a scalar. Scalar data types are nothing but all these. Okay, let's say Boolean is a scalar data type, or when you say a varchar, or let's say you have a date, and all these things are a scalar variables. When you say that large objects, right, large objects. So large objects are nothing but which are divided into three types. So one is called as a CLOB, and another is called as a BLOB, and the next one is called as a B file. All these are all the different types of LOB is nothing but a large object. So CLOB means this data type is actually used to store the file content. Suppose if I want to dump entire PDF into a column of a table, then I'll use a CLOB. So whenever you want to store the file content like XML files, PDF files or text files, anything that you want to store, then we'll use a CLOB. BLOB is basically used to store the images. If you want to store any images, binary files and all those things, BLOB is something which we use. B file and even the BLOB, B file is basically stored to store the videos. Let's say I want to store the video and I want to play it. It will basically store the location of the video, and that location can be tracked from the B file. So these are called as a large object data types. And the scalar data types are simple. Okay, all scalar data types, when you say varchar, scalar means which can hold only one value, that is called as a scalar data type. Okay, so let's say scalar data types. So it's like varchar, date, and then the number. All these are all the different types of this thing that you come to know about scalar data types. So when you look at the objects or records, there is other data types called as a records or objects. See, object or a record is nothing but the group of attributes, or you can call it as a composite group of attributes. So you might, if you have a Java knowledge, then objects in your Java is nothing but a record in the PLSQL. So it's basically, let's say if you want to store all the employee attributes, you define something as this: employee record is type employee type record, employee record is. Okay, I'm just showing you an example. You don't need to much worry on this. You're not going to use it in the warehouse projects. Okay, so when you're basically defining it, a record is nothing but the combination of different attributes. Employee name, which I define it as a varchar 2 of 100. Let's say hire date. Hire date is a date, right? So if you're going to use this, let's say salary, and which is going to be a number. So composite data type or an object or any composite data type or an object, when you say it is nothing but a group of attributes, that is called as a record or an object in this. So if you are storing the group of this, then that is called as your arrays and collections. Collections are nothing but which are multiple things. So I'm not getting into much details about the records and collections because that require a heavy amount of practicing for you. But anyway, we are not going in details about it. You don't need to know also in case of your Informatica, when you're going in as a Informatica developer. So that's pretty much on the records and the data types. So when you are declaring a PLSQL variables, you need to handle few things. So naming conventions, what we use. If it is a variable, we use V. If it is a constant, we use C. If it is a program parameter, we'll use P. And cursors, cursor underscore, whatever. You can just follow those standards, whatever is there. Scalar data types are all these. Boolean, integer, PLS integer, and all those. And this is how you define the variables and do it. So basically, now I want you to print a simple program, basically print a simple program which initialize your details. I want you to write and then send me a mail with the program details. Okay, I want you to write an anonymous block which will print the name, your first name, last name, and then the designation and the salary and when the employee is being hired. I want to print all those things in your program. So basically what I want you to do is use the declaration section and use the begin and end. So begin and end. Here you declare 5 variables which talks about your name. Declare 5 variables. 5 variables, what are all about? Name, let's say designation, and salary, and let's say the commission. Define the commission as a constant. It is like a 0.1%. So define all the 5 variables and print all the 5 variables here. Print all the 5 variables using a DBMS output. All the 5 variables using the DBMS output, and then execute that program and then see that. See, whenever I'm writing a program and then executing it, is this program is getting saved onto my database? No. Anonymous blocks will never get stored in the database. It is a non-stored program. It doesn't get saved. So whenever you execute a program, there are 2 phases. One is a compilation, another is a execution. So when you execute an anonymous block, compilation and execution happens at the same time. When you go to the procedures and functions, those will be compiled and stored. Anyway, we'll see that. Now I want you to declare 5 variables: designation, name, designation, salary, commission, maybe the joining date, and print all of them here and send me that program, which this is the first assignment on the PLSQL for you, assignment 1. So if you're able to do, all use only the scalar data types. Name is varchar, designation is varchar, salary is number of 10, 12, and commission is number of 10, 12 or something. Joining date is a date. So print all of them and then do that. So I want you to show the output, see the output in the DBMS and use the DBMS output and then do it. So that's pretty much, we talked about the variables today, variables. So we'll go for cursors and the control structures in the tomorrow class. How to use a if-else statement, how to use a for loop, and how to use the different other things. We'll go on and then talk about it. Right, all right. So that's it I have for the day. And